What's up, guys? Politics Gaming here, and today we are doing episode 4 of the United Mexican States. In the previous episode, essentially what we did is that we went on a spree with a few countries such as Brazil, Argentina, and Costa Rica. Essentially what we did is that we signed some free trade agreements, the most valuable of which was with Brazil. So we have a $126 billion contract with Brazil. However, in the future, we do want to upgrade that to a global economic treaty, which will definitely get more trade going between us. What we also are going to do first off is we're going to start buying some resources from Africa. We're going to start expanding our trade relations over in Africa. What we also might want to do is that we want to expand trade down into South Africa and as well as possibly Ethiopia, Kenya, or Tanzania. And then what we also want to do is that we could try to start expanding relations with the United Kingdom and then possibly France as well. We can sign economic contracts with European countries, but we cannot sign free trade agreements with these separate European countries unless we were to sign one with the European Union, which we do have an agreement with the European Union worth about $40 billion. However, unfortunately, that is not going to be able to be upgraded because for some reason, I don't know why I'm not able to get an upgraded global economic treaty with the EU. So it's always kind of weird. What we can also do is that whenever the war ends in any way, shape, or form, unless it is a Russian victory, which I highly doubt at this point, I do want to kind of start a trade relationship with Ukraine as well as Turkey. So there are a lot of ideas and potential customers that we can get. We also might sign 1 or 2 contracts with China, as we again are going to be interacting with both sides unless China kind of like relations deteriorate essentially between Mexico and China. But that again will not stop us from pursuing stronger trade relations between Taiwan and the United Mexican States. The first thing we're going to go and check is going to be our budget. So we have a 2.66% deficit or surplus right now. And then we are spending $24.5 billion on debt reimbursement. So that makes it our number 4th largest expenditure right now. Social Security, education, and Homeland Security do have a large chunk of our budget expenditure, as well as industry and energy. But we do want to make sure that we are able to kind of start increasing funding, because what I want to do is that I want to reduce illiteracy in Mexico. We have a 5.47% illiteracy rate right now. If we can start to increase funding to our education budget priorities, this will really start to help us. And what you really want to concentrate on as smaller countries, education actually has a huge, and I mean huge, amount of pull whenever it comes to your industrialization rate. So whenever I was playing as Tanzania one time, for example, I actually had an issue where I was subsidizing my industrial sectors, but none of them were able to start up. And the reason is because if you have a high enough illiteracy rate, you are basically kind of limited whenever it comes to industrialization. So what you need to go do is that you need to go over to education, and then what we're going to do right now, we're going to start increasing our education budget priorities as well as our secondary training and higher education training. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to do higher education and secondary training. We're going to do technical. We're going to increase that by about 2 stars. And what is the limit right now? You know what, actually, we'll go ahead and do 3 stars. So $1.6 billion there. We're going to do about 4 additional stars to agriculture and then 1 star to general. And then we can go to tourism and foreign languages. We're going to do economy, law, and commerce. And then literary and teaching. So $7.4 billion. We're probably going to do an additional $10 billion here, which, yeah, we can afford that. scientific training. So we have almost exactly $10 billion. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and confirm that there, so that reduces our excess to 1.94. What we're also going to do is that we're gonna go over to the education budget priorities. We're gonna increase our training. Well, yeah, of course it's really, really expensive. So we're gonna have to raise some sort of revenue in order to kind of get that going. All right, there we go. Go ahead and get that over. That should help us out a little bit. What we're also going to do is that we're going to go over to the United States and we're going to ask if they can give us a student exchange program. If they can get us a student exchange program, that will very much help us out, as that will be able to start increasing our illiteracy rates. So we're going to go to the next day, see what the reaction to all of that is. And the United States has refused our offer. Our children do not know your country very well. We would prefer a student exchange with countries of comparable size and importance to us. That is very much stupid, because Mexico is very much one of the most important countries to the United States. So that is unfortunate, unfortunately. But we could actually dedicate a year of culture to the United States in order to improve economic and political relations with the United States. So that is an option. We could also use that. So I think it's going to do 2024 if we were to do that year of culture. And to a country, the whole territory discover or rediscover the cultural richness of the honored country. Beside reinforcing ties between the country and their people, the year of culture also contributes to better economic cooperation. Let's go ahead and do a year of culture to the United States. So this will be basically year of culture, only happiness. On behalf of all of our citizens, we'd like to extend our warm thanks for organizing a year of culture dedicated to our nation. My government appreciates the honor that you have given us, and this will be etched in the history of our two countries forever. As for planning events, you will find that our cultural heritage is quite rich, so you have plenty to choose from. We have very similar cultures, especially in the Southwest. So very, very good to see that the United States has accepted this and only increased our economic relationship by just a tiny bit. So I'm pretty sure that will go up after a little bit, and then we could also start to reduce. So that increased by 5 points. Again, that is a little unfortunate, but we're not going to whine about it too much. Military operations, we have none, and army, and then we could I know in the first episode I abolished the national service. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that again, and then we're going to increase our military forces to about 250,000, which with a goal of about 500 to 700,000 highly trained military forces. And then we also will be buying more equipment, so that way we can at least draw upon about 2 million if we ever needed to. So again, equipment for military is the exact amount of people, subtracting what your career and conscripts are, is the exact amount of people that you can draft or use in your military at any point. So if I were to go over to general mobilization, this is the exact amount of people that I can draft. So the more equipment you have, the more you can mobilize in order to fight off any sort of really bad threat. All right, and we are in November 1st of 2023. Let's go over to women real quick, and we will look right here. Checks on gender equality in the workplace. We'll go ahead and fund by about 2 stars. The fight against sexual violence, we will fund that entirely, so we'll go ahead and put that right there. Education policy on gender equality, we will not make any stances on that as of yet, but I believe there might be a chance that we might increase funding over into that area. Specific criminalization of street harassment. Street harassment is described as any form of hostile behavior with sexual connotations conducted in a public area. Its criminalization contributes to equality between men and women, the fight against certain type of culture of sexism, and the freedom of movement for everyone. Penalties varying between on the severity of the offense, and then can go as far as actual imprisonment. So essentially, this is saying that there is no tolerance in public for any type of sexual harassment, which can go as like kind of like cooing at people or any type of touching, and any type of even sexual assault can be defined as specific criminalization of street harassment, and then can be imprisoned for any amount of time, or however the localities go, or however the law goes. $75 billion for our farming industry. Let's go over here. We are fully funding food security now. Our inflation rate is now 4.7%, 4.9%. So that is good. Kind of waiting for it to go down. We may increase interest rates a little bit just to kind of like have a lock on inflation once it starts kind of going up. We do see it's kind of fluctuating back and forth right now, and our stock market is on its way up, so that is still good. 2.8% growth right now. This is around exactly what we want. So we don't want like 5 to 10% inflation. We want like 2 to 5%. Anything over 5% is exactly why people say, oh, well, the game's economy is broken because I just signed a contract that's like 50% of my economy. Like, stop signing contracts that are 50% of your economy. Like I said in my economic tutorial, if your economy is $100 billion under GDP and you sign a contract that is worth $50 billion, you are going to get 50% growth and you are going to get 50% inflation. So don't sign contracts that are that big related to your economy. Don't do it, because it's going to end badly for you. The air pollution, especially in our major cities, we clearly should opt for the development of an electric car. This will allow substantially lower the number of premature deaths along with those who are vulnerable. However, under our environmental program and with our electricity production relying heavily on fossil fuel, these vehicles will still be indirectly responsible for CO2 emissions. Ideally, at this point, we should modify our electricity production facilities to use renewable energies. So, which is what we are doing right now. We need to probably build a facility or two more, but 58% of our electricity is coming from fossil electricity, while 28% is coming from wind power, which is based right off of the coast of Mexico. So really good to see that our renewable race is on. I think what we can also do, we're going to come over here, we're going to go to debt. So in the previous episode, we did pay off some of our debt, and we are going to pay off more debt right here. So we want to start paying some debt. We want to pay either United States or we want to pay Mexico. We want to pay ourselves. So Mexico is essentially the most amount of debt that we are incurring right now. And the most amount of interest. So usually what you want to do is that you want to start paying off yourself to a sufficient point where your interest payments are not sucking up a massive amount of your resources. So we're going to go ahead and pay $96.2 billion to Mexico, to ourselves, and we're going to pay off some of that interest. So that reduced our interest payments by about $4 billion. However, that does make the United States now our biggest creditor. So we will probably see this number change as soon as the next quarter hits. But it means that we are slowly starting to pay off our debt. I'm also going to go to the United Nations. I'm going to go to the World Bank, and I'm going to ask the World Bank for a reduction in our debt. So it's what we want to do, ask for a reduction in debt. We want to ask for... We're going to ask for a relief package of about $8 billion. This is a whoa, yeah, okay, that's in millions. That was kind of funny. Almost didn't realize that. Ask for a reduction of debt. And let's go ahead and ask for $7.5 billion. We don't want to ask for too much because they will basically say, no, that's not what we're going to do. So we will go ahead and send that over and see what the response is. And if they refuse it, we will not be able to ask for another year, unfortunately.
It's begun. World leaders are beginning to arrive at the United Nations Framework Convention of Climate Change, the UNFCCC, which will start in the next few hours. As in previous years, they are renewing their pledge for success and have high hopes in the new legislation, which could bring their neighbors to the table. The fact is that negotiations have already begun well in advance of the summit, whether with UN emissaries or between heads of state, and the future of CO2 emissions for each country are already forecast. Moreover, other resolutions are expected to be passed at the same time, especially the Green Fund for the Climate, intended to help developing countries in their energy transition.
All right, this is COP28. This is the Climate Objective Conference for the game and as well as in real life. You are now encouraged to review and, we hope, improve your own national commitments. I remind you that according to the Paris Accords, states' efforts in the fight against global warming are now reflected by reporting and updating their nationally determined contributions, or NDCs. These contributions establish the objectives for CO2 emissions, in most cases up to 2030, and a year that carbon neutrality will be reached, meaning that the country has a zero sum of emissions and no longer contributes to global warming. So essentially what we want to do is that we want to say what our emissions will be in 2030 and when Mexico will achieve carbon neutrality. So by 2030, I am very confident that we can reduce our emissions to about 400 megatons. And for carbon neutrality, I'm confident that we can make Mexico reach carbon neutrality by 2045. But I'm actually thinking about it right now. We have about 15 years in order to get to carbon neutrality. So I'm pretty sure within 15 years, I can get Mexico to carbon neutrality by the year 2040. And then by 2030, we have about 7 years, in order to meet this objective. Let's go ahead and reduce, okay, now we're gonna go for 2040. Let's go ahead and reduce our objective for the 2030 summit by about 50 megatons. Let's go ahead and do this at 350 megatons by 2030. Go ahead and confirm those objectives. Mr. President, the conference is over here. The lessons being learned today at the national level and annual feedback for your country. I'd like to remind you that our worldwide goal is to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees in 2100, or even by 2 degrees by reaching carbon neutrality in 2050 at the latest. The latest global report is not good. At this rate, it will soon be impossible to reach our objectives. All countries must double their efforts, especially the largest emitters. Action must be taken on all fronts, banning carbonized energy, reducing energy consumption, supporting research and innovations to find solutions to offset or reduce emissions. Time is running out. In matter of the green climate funds paid annually by rich countries to developing countries to help them through their energy transition, based on the total proposals, it has been increased to about $7 billion total for next year. It is unfortunate that this is a lower value compared to last year. The richest countries and the biggest consumers of CO2 lack solidarity. This is very regrettable and will have a negative impact on public opinion. Remember that the objective set at the Paris Accords is to reach $100 billion. And now your country's results, which I remind you will be made public with the COP broadcasting at the good countries and bad countries. This will inevitably have consequences on the popularity of the leadership and on your diplomatic relations with honorable countries. Fossil energy makes up more than 50% of your electricity production. This is very bad. You have raised your objectives, bravo, but you must keep these commitments or the frustration will be all the greater. As for the progress observed in the CO2 emissions, you are light years away from your objectives. You need to do something. Let's go ahead and hit yes, and then we will start a transition right now with our environmental aspects. So what we need to do is that we need to go over, and we need to go over to environment, go over to construction, and we'll go ahead and call for about 5,000 CO2 air filtration units. This will be all throughout the country and will cost about 50,000 people. $2.03 billion will be spent on this every year, and about $10 billion over the next 5 years. And then let's go over to capture CO2 at the emission source. Let's go ahead and do 500 of these. That'll be an additional $1 billion and about $4.5 billion over the next 5 years. And this will take about 5,000 people. And what if I actually wanted to do 1,000? That could have cost about another $2 billion, and then about the same cost, actually. We'll go ahead and do that, about 1,000 of these units, and then let's go over here, go over to air pollution, increase funding to that, chemical pollution, increase funding there. Let's do some forest fire funding, about 1 star. We have some volcanoes that we want to monitor a little bit. Let's go ahead and increase funding there. Tidal waves and cyclones will be funded a little bit more. Earthquakes, we will have full funding over here. We'll actually do like 1 additional. You know what? Actually, we're just gonna leave that there. We actually have some pretty sufficient funding. Drought and heat wave, we will go ahead and increase funding for heat waves, and then flooding and mud flows. So about $1.5 billion additional funding to environment. And then we will do some additional funding to water treatment as well. And then lastly, we'll go over here, regulate vehicle traffic. We'll go ahead and increase this to alternating traffic every other day. And then come over here. Let's do a reform. And then we'll go and call this the Environmental Act of 2023. Go ahead and confirm that. What is this? Energy legislation, non-conventional. What if we do this? Yeah, people will somewhat support it, and then we can kind of like incrementally do it. So we'll kind of pass all of this under the cover of our environmental stages. So we'll kind of like get a little bit of a mixed reception on it. So the only pushback we're getting right now is from the National Club for Drivers' Rights. Telecommunications, deployment of fiber optics, we'll go ahead and patent that. Perfection of biodegradable plastic, patented. And illegal employment is now at 37%. So that means that we are getting way more money off of Social Security payments now, which is really, really good. We're also still thinking about the annexation of Guatemala. And then we could possibly build a wall with Honduras and El Salvador to kind of stem the immigration crisis. And it is now November 11th of 2023. We see that the World Bank has gotten back to us and a reduction of debt has been accepted. In the light of efforts that you and your country has made in terms of social, health, and educational development, the World Bank has decided to support you and reply favorably to your request. Your debt within the World Bank will be thus be relieved by the amount you have proposed by $7.4 billion. This relief will be spaced out across the remaining duration of your reimbursement. All of this is obviously subject to the condition that your development policy and democracy continues in Mexico. So we will go over to here, or actually to the United Nations, and the World Bank again has reduced our debt by about $7 billion, which is really good. So we will ask them again in about a year to relieve about $10 billion as we are continuing to develop Mexico. All right, and we do see that the reception for that non-conventional gas law has passed or has kind of like stirred up a little bit. However, this is still because of the National Club for Drivers' Rights. Long not conventional gas and oil has been passed. Street harassment law has also been passed. Long gas and oil national. This could lead to an exploitation of these resources, which will develop the sector and create numerous jobs. That's exactly why we are trying to do it. So this guy is kind of funny because he can kind of call for strikes anytime that he wants. And remember that Mexico actually does have recognized labor rights. Long gas and oil slippery slopes, says ecologist. The legislation on the authorization of non-conventional gas and oil exploration has created a dangerous precedent. All of the environmental and civic forces oppose this decision, which could see the country exploit resources that are dangerous to humans and our environment. Because why would you authorize these tests if you're not going to validate them later and hide the truth? It's exactly what I'm trying to do, but we don't really know any of that. And nice taxes. He wants me to increase the highway system taxes. Speaking of highways, let's go ahead and get rid of these protests real quick. Environmental Act of 2023 and electric gas and oil criminalization, a major step. male chauvinism that permeates in her country, so she really likes that. What we did in the meantime, we also did increase the highway system. So we do have a highway that runs from Puebla to Tehuacan, and then we have a highway that runs from Mexico City all the way up to Querétaro, and then all the way up to Leon. So this is very much good because I very much want to develop the highway system for Mexico. Mexico City will serve as a hub, as well as will Guadalajara and even San Luis Potosi. Some of these major cities will have a lot of them kind of like spidering out from them in order to kind of get some sort of really good highway system. Kind of similar to the United States, not going to be looking as organized. It's going to be very kind of cluttered a little bit. I would try to say I'm going to try to get a little bit of a uniform way of getting these highways around, while not sacrificing, like, just building highways to build highways, essentially. There will be a plan. But essentially what we want to do now, let's go over to housing, and let's go ahead and adopt some 44,000 housing units that will be rehabilitated, and then that will reduce our total housing rehabilitation units, or our objective, to 2.1 million, down from 2.2 million. So we are going to be aggressively trying to rehabilitate a lot of our housing units and reducing the subpar housing to satisfactory levels, which is around 20%. All right, and so essentially what we want to do is that before we go today, since the quarter is almost over, we want to go ahead and authorize the exploitation of non-conventional gas and oil. This actually will be covered in my upcoming energy tutorial, so do keep a lookout for that. I am about to release it. Essentially, I just have to finish editing it, and I've already done the voice work. All of it has been worked on, everything like that. I just need to edit it and then post it, and that will be out. So do keep a lookout for that. And since we are now in the release period of the upcoming World Warfare and Economic game, what I am going to do is I am going to start releasing content on what I think about it. If you guys are expecting a game that is going to be similar or a direct competitor, and I'm saying direct like kind of a little leniently, because it's not going to be as detailed. And if you're expecting something that is going to be more detailed than Power and Revolution, you are going to be disappointed. And I will be able to start posting like actual gameplay footage and live streams of it, so I will be able to do that very, very soon. So I'm really excited to preview it to you guys, but again, do not hold your breath on it being more detailed than Power and Revolution. We are going to go ahead and meet with our Secretary General, Claudia Sheinbaum. She's going to be the woman that is running for president next year in Mexico. Oh, that's actually really cool. This is what we see whenever it is a actual picture. Instead of a 3D image, we do see that it is this person right here.
Sure. Dark and strong, please.
Oh, that is so cool. I've never done this before. So we still hear a voice, but we just see her picture. That is very, very interesting. There she is, charming.
Yeah.
Militant's gonna be proud. And
No problem.
all right, and so she is supporting the bill. Let's go over and see what she has done over the next day. So she's going to call upon her colleagues to support the bill, and doesn't change at all. That's unfortunate. Let's go ahead and ask Pri to support the bill. If we can get just a tiny bit more support in the Congress, then we are going to be fine. Very, very much need this to happen.
No problem.
Thank you. Can we... Okay, Pri came out for us. Pri is going to be helping us get this passed. We're also going to ask Pan to support it as well, if we can get just a tiny bit more support in case there is a small drop in my approval rating. This will kind of like shield us from getting this law rejected because of my falling popularity. This is Xochitl Galvez. She's going to be the opponent for the Morena Party in next year's election. We're gonna
No.
offer a coffee,
I'd be-
champagne, and please support
No
this law.
problem.
So she's going to come out in force for us as well, and this goes up to 54.8%. So we're getting the right-wing parties to support the law, and so the right-wing parties actually are seemed to have come against it mainly because they want to be opposing of the administration. However, since I have said that this can be beneficial for both of us, then that will help us get that passed. So we're definitely going to be getting some non-conventional gas and oil industries up and running. And what we want to do, so we want to start preparing for this possibility. So let's go over here to non-conventional oil, and let's see what it would take for us to nationalize it fully. This will actually be a possibility. So before we start to increase our reserves, we're going to go ahead and nationalize non-conventional gas and oil, and then we're going to sell it. So that way we can benefit off of the industry, and then we can sell it at a very good selling price. Breach of the free trade agreement with Argentina. Relations are poor, so apparently relations have collapsed between Argentina and Mexico. What has happened in Argentina? It seems that there has been a military coup. Military coup has come into effect in Argentina, and that has instituted a conservative rightist party in Argentina. So unfortunately, our free trade agreement with Argentina has collapsed due to this coup d'etat. So we're going to be watching the situation closely in Argentina a little bit. We are not strategically aligned with Argentina as of right now. We could try to start maybe sending some money to an opposition party. We do not expect that this coup d'etat will be lasting. Institutional Revolutionary Party officially calls on a parliamentary group to vote in favor of the bill without restrictions. What happened in Argentina? So this was December 18th, so this is the newest one. We want to get last week's edition. Assassination, the work of a sniper who's outside. The faithful friend of the Polish prime minister has been assassinated as of a week ago. 180,000 people have died in the Russia conflict. Where is Argentina? Georgia, here it is. The end of reign for Hernandez, the army in power in Argentina. President Jorge Sanz has very well prepared his coup. The putsch was performed in a few hours, just the time the military needed to besiege the presidential palace and arrest Antonio Hernandez. Reassuring the people with regard to his democratic intentions, Jorge Sanz promised during his first press conference that after a, quote, fair trial before a martial court, the deposed head of state will be shot with all the honors his rank deserves. Yikes. The country's financial state and budgetary drain are the factors that drove Antonio Hernandez to his loss. So because of the devastating financial situation in Argentina, with, what is it, a 83% GDP debt ratio, but a 5.76% deficit, but then 39% inflation rate and 7% unemployment, that has doomed the president of Argentina to a shooting squad. So that is very unfortunate to see that the political situation in Argentina has collapsed. Ecologist Green Party Mexico sit-in is crazy. How can you choose to put the health of the very citizen, viability of natural resources in danger for a voracious energy which goes against international environmental protocols? We will not drop this. Same thing. I don't know why the Minister of Homeland Security usually says that. I like how the picture is still there.
Sharing this moment of intense spirituality with the faithful gives me...
Thank you, Amla. That is actually really cool how that kind of works. I need to start doing these kinds of gameplays way more often, where I basically make like a little pack for it. If you guys are interested in getting the pack, I will have to... Would you guys just want it as it is? Or do you want me to update it a little bit more for you guys? Because I know you guys are interested in wanting the pack. So do you guys want me to upload it as it is right now, where it's just the political leaders? Or do you guys want me to kind of like format it a little bit more and then kind of like get like realistic businesses and everything? This is about as much information as I could have compiled for Mexico. So I mean, I feel like it's kind of ready to kind of be transmitted out, but I really don't know how much more I could add. So if you guys are interested in it, let me know, and I will release it on the next episode for you guys. The contract has been rejected between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the United Mexican States. That is very unfortunate, as the reason is our relations are poor, to say the least, so it is inadvisable to sign this. Why is that? Because we have pretty good we have -37 relations with the Democratic Republic of the Congo in terms of economics. So that is unfortunate, and I did not see that. We are also going to possibly do let's go over here. Not possibly anymore. Let's go over to legislation. Let's do determine the policy on issuance of visas. Visas authorize foreign nationals to stay in a country for a set period of time. They are designed to control and regulate immigration flow. Within the Schengen area, the principle of free movement allows all citizens to travel without a visa. Not issuing visas makes illegal immigration easier. A very restrictive and controlled policy of issuing visas will limit the flow of legal immigration. The choice is also a means of political pressure when a country is deemed uncooperative in returning their own immigrants to their territory. With Venezuela, as the situation there continues to collapse, we will go ahead and do a tightly controlled visa with quotas on Venezuela, as they are completely out of control in terms of their illegal immigration situation. As we can see, most of our illegal immigrants for Mexico, that is actually Venezuela. If we actually see, most of our legal immigrants coming from around the world are from Venezuela. We actually have 26,000 legal immigrants from the United States. But if we go over to illegal immigrants, this number goes up to 163,000. So most of our illegal immigrants, at least 12% of them, are coming from Venezuela. And again, one of the reasons why we kind of want to annex Guatemala is mainly because of how many illegal immigrants are coming from Guatemala. So this is very much a situation that needs some repercussions, and we are increasing the amount of infrastructures that we have, of detention centers of 140 spaces, in order to stem this. We are also again considering some sort of wall with Guatemala. If we were to fully fund this wall, this would cost us $3.5 billion and take 10 months to build. If we were to fully fund it, it would cost $17 billion. It's an 843 kilometer wall that is just, again, out of control right now. So what we could do is that we could partially build the wall. We could add about 100 miles of border, 100 kilometers of border wall to the Guatemalan border. However, we're going to think about this and deal with it in the next episode. So I think this is about it for us right now. Let's go ahead and go to the end of the year and see what happens. And we will go to about January 10th to see what the final results of the year have been. All right, and so in the year 2023, the economy grew by about 1.63%. So this is kind of a somewhat unhealthy number. We kind of wanted this to be around 2 or 3%. However, we were kind of having stable growth rates around the year. Our GDP is at $1.45 trillion right now. This is an average result, is the assumption by the Minister of Finance. Slight reduction in the numbers of people in poverty, and then unfavorable change in regime. And then we have $54 billion that has been accumulated in our national treasury. That is a very unfortunate situation that our economy only grew by less than 2% in the year 2023. We are going to go to January, or to the next Monday, to where our finances will correct themselves. Usually there is always kind of like a correction period at the beginning of the year, mainly because all of the economics are kind of like resetting themselves and going through, kind of like saying like, okay, everything's fine. So you usually kind of see like a huge like drop in your finances because of the amount of debt that you incurred that quarter or that year, and then it kind of goes back to normal after a minute. So then budget surplus is at 1.78%. Usually by this message right here, your economy kind of normalizes at that point. Numbers for the past year already, and I can now give you the new figures relating to state debt. Our total public debt, that is to say the engagements of the state in terms of loans, rises to $862 billion. The debt service or annual debt reimbursement level will rise by the new year to $72.8 billion. Finally, the most significant figure, our budgetary surplus, has risen to 1.70% of the GDP. Our unemployment rate is at 1% right now, and then our growth rate right now is at 2.44%. 35% is our illegal employment rate right now, and then results at the National Assembly, everything is being passed, sort of. And then right here, our shale oil and gas wells are now prepared, so we can go ahead and increase production in our country. What I actually want to test before we leave is to see whether this is worth the political repercussions or not. So we see right here, very weak. I know we're going to get some really good measures at the border. What we also want to do is check around the Gulf of Mexico region. So let's see, in the Veracruz region, can we get some good oil production? Maybe in the southern part, or maybe in the Chiapas region, or in Campeche. Yeah, it's most likely going to be in the north, where we're going to be getting a lot of our really good oil contracts. And then again, we could actually build a oil pipeline. So we're going to see a lot of really good oil and gas up in the north, mostly around Texas, well, like actually southern Texas. Is the United States going to pull a Kuwait on us, like how Iraq basically said, no, you're drilling under the border, you're stealing our oil, and they invade us? Who knows? Let's see. But guys, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more content like this, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it. If you guys want to see more of the Mexico series, go ahead and tell me your thoughts down below. These Mexico series are actually being pretty well received. Not really getting as many views as I would have liked, but over time they have actually been getting really good views. So, I mean, each episode has actually been getting up around 1,000 views by about like 2 weeks in. So I'm really excited that you guys are liking this series so far. But tell me you guys' thoughts and what should I do in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching this with me, and take care.